So Smallville returned this week from its winter hiatus, which was unbearably long, if you ask me. Um, but truth be told, I didn't even know it was coming back. I knew we were getting close, but I'd forgotten what the return date was. Luckily, I have TiVo, which recorded it for me, so I was able to watch it and watch it without commercials, which was pretty nice. So I'm not really complaining about that. I thought it was a pretty strong return. I was, I liked it. I was a fan. Um, Last season, season six, uh, was terrible. I don't even know where to start. I don't even really want to go back to that. Um, it it annoyed me so much. I was just so disappointed, frustrated, just hated that season. That I told myself coming into this season, you know what? I'm not even gonna watch it. I'm done with the show. But like all my empty promises, I started watching again, and I actually blamed TiVo for that because I would sit down and it'd be sitting there on my TiVo, and I figured, what the hell? Let's just watch it, just to watch this train wreck. And actually, season seven's been very good, all things considered. When I found out that they were bringing in Doomsday, I I was just dumbfounded. You know, I just like everyone else, I was saying it's too early. You can't bring in someone like Doomsday. And then they hit us with the bomb that Doomsday is actually a human that transforms into Doomsday. And I almost lost it. That was the stupidest idea I've ever heard. But the writers have surprised me. Um, Sam Witwer, who plays Davis, Bloom, and Doomsday, he's done a really nice job. I like him. He's a very strong addition to the cast. I didn't really think the Chloe, Jimmy, Davis triangle was all that necessary. I thought it was too stereotypical of Smallville and its whole, teen drama sort of thing, love triangles. But I can see with her being Brainiac and him being Doomsday, sort of set that up nicely, which leads into this episode. Um, Chloe's been totally taken over by Brainiac, rather, and Davis just got done destroying her wedding and taking her to the fortress, and now Brainiac's telling Doomsday it's time for him to step it up, you know. And meanwhile, Clark meets up with the Legion. Now, I don't really follow the Legion. I'm not actually a big DC guy, to be honest. Um, my DC knowledge is limited to Superman, Batman, and anything from Smallville, really. That's not to say I don't like DC. I just never put the time into learning the universe. It was so complicated, and I just didn't connect with the characters as much as I did with Marvel. But I'm a big Superman and Batman fan, so. And Smallville was really what started me on Superman. And so I don't really know the Legion that much. I know tidbits. I was able to recognize names like Lightning Lad and all that. And I knew they were from the 31st century, all the basics. So this episode didn't have as much, I guess I'll call it geekgasm factor for me as it could have if I'd been a Legion follower. But it was still nice, because they're finally, being open about the fact that he's going to become Superman. You know, they didn't say it. They cut him off, typical Smallville fashion. He was like, in the future, he'll be known as Cut Him Off, because I guess they're afraid to say the big S word. But, they talk about tights and flying and Lois and the glasses. And I thought that was just so cool because in the past it was always sort of, hint at it, beat around the bush. And finally, they're just saying, you know what, you guys know it, we know it, he's going to be Superman. Let's just take it, put it on the table, and just be real about it. And I'm really glad. And I don't want to get my hopes up, but I really think the end of this year is when we will see the tights, or at least him flying, at least, because they've just put that off too much. They've had Kara flying, Now they have the Legion flying, Brainiac can fly, and everyone's asking Clark, why can't you fly? And we have to ask Clark, why can't you fly? So I think, at the very least, he'll be flying by the end of the season, if not wearing the tights. Big reveal, ripping open the shirt, one of my favorite images ever. I'm hoping we get there, but it's still nice to see Clark, evolving into that role. I think his transition to the Daily Planet was seamless, nicely done. Um, him growing closer to Lois is just happening so fluidly. Typical. They started out bickering at each other, busting each other's chops. The boy kicks the girl in the playground and throws dirt on her, but deep down he has a crush on her. That sort of dynamic, I think, it works really nicely for these two characters, considering their personalities. And with Doomsday, they've finally given Clark a reason to step it up. Save the world. It's time to walk into your destiny. And he's finally embracing that. And I guess, I hate to say it, but we have Lana to thank because she removed herself from the equation. But of course, now the writers are sort of putting her back in the equation. So I don't know what the deal with that is. I would rather just no Lana at all. But at least she's not as annoying as she was last year. I'll give her that. In her 2 episodes so far, she hasn't made me roll my eyes once, which is a feat for Lana. It's really impressive. That said, the whole Lex thing, I know they want to acknowledge that he's still around, but the whole little creepy bald guy with all the, whatever you want to call it, coming out of him, watching everyone through this big screen, that's so not Lex, and I kind of wish they hadn't done it. I wish they had just, acknowledged that his body was never found, and they had shown, constant search for him, but he never really showed up. Maybe operated a little behind the scenes, but I didn't need to see some bald guy watching some screen monitoring everyone. I didn't think that was necessary. Michael Rosenbaum was a big loss to the show. I was hoping they would bring him back. They haven't yet. They still might. From the preview at the end of this episode, we see that Lex does end up communicating with people a little. But otherwise, I think every other aspect of the show has, gone up in the past year because they've really realized that it's time to stop messing around, just get down to business. Let's put this guy in the suit. Let's make him Superman. And let's end the show on a strong note because it has its detractors. It always has. And I can see where their complaints come from. But for those of us who are fans who have followed it, we want to see it through to the end. And at the start of the season, I wasn't admitting that. But the fact is, I want to see it through to the end. And really, how this ends is going to change the way I feel about this show. Because if they do the tights, they do the flight in the final episode, or even, before then I'll forever remember this show as a good investment, if you will. But if they don't, if they end it on some ambiguous note, then I'm going to feel like I wasted my time watching this all this time. They were constantly hinting at it, they were just teasing, and they never did anything about it. I'm going to feel like I wasted my time. So the next couple weeks are crucial to me because they're going to decide how, in retrospect, I look at this show. And they've given me hope in the past couple weeks. Between this episode, the Doomsday episode, and the one before that, they've given me hope. They give me reason to believe that they're going to do this right, and they're going to honor the character, because Superman is right behind Spider-Man in my book. And I would love to see Superman get the right treatment on the big screen too, but that's a story for another time. I want to see him get it in Smallville, and Tom Welling is Superman, so let's see it. That's all I have to say.